Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Craig Patterson for DS Sports as always, and in this episode we're going to be taking our first trip around Europe, around Europe's top leagues. It's always interesting to find out what's going on. It's always so easy to access these games, especially on the internet. Loads of streaming services, even the bigger broadcasts. Bigger broadcasters in Europe are televising all of these games live, and it's always really good to watch these games in different times, different styles of football being played, and especially the biggest teams that you see in the Champions League every couple of weeks, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, in Europa League especially as well. But in this episode we're going to look around all these teams, see how they're all getting on, see how Europe's big teams are getting on, who are the surprise packages in these leagues, as well as look at in the Scottish leagues here as well. But anyway guys, we're going to take our tour around Europe. As always guys, remember to leave a like on the channel, comment anything at all, anything that I haven't maybe brought up, any surprise packages that I may have missed out as well. And also remember to subscribe to the channel if you are new and you're watching for the very first time. It's always great it's been really great to have your support over the last couple of weeks, subscribing to the channel, watching these videos as well. So thank you very much for all that guys. Keep it up, tell your friends, tell everybody's friends, tell your family, whatever you need to do to get this channel up and running, get the support coming in. I always appreciate it guys. But anyway guys, we're going to go into it. We're going to start in the far west of Europe. We're going to start in Spain. Always one of the biggest leagues, especially when you look at the El Clasico teams, especially Real Madrid, Barcelona, and now you've got, especially after the summer business that they've done, now you've got Atletico Madrid. They've always been there or thereabouts, won the league not too long ago, especially winning it on the very last day at the new camp, which was quite amazing when you think about it. But yeah, Atletico Madrid done a huge amount of business. They're also going well, but the real team that have sort of turned it around, albeit as likes of Barcelona and indeed Atletico Madrid's expense, are Real Madrid. They've started off really well, unbeaten after 6 games. They had a couple of very recent wins against, let me just go back here, a couple of really important wins recently. At the weekend they had a 1-0 win against Sevilla, who are running very well at the top of the table, but have just dropped back a wee bit. Only one win in their last 3 games for them, and then including that defeat against Real Madrid at home. Karim Benzema with a goal halfway through the second half in that one, and that catapulted Real Madrid to the top of the league for the first time. They did start off a bit slowly, got an opening day win, but a couple of draws has preceded 3 wins in a row for Real Madrid. The win against Sevilla coming right in the middle of home wins against Levante and Osasuna. Osasuna being a very recently promoted side from the Segunda Liga 1-2-3. So Real Madrid really got going, and I think what's really helped them has been the return of Eden Hazard. Well, I say return, he's made his debut now. Did recently get injured towards the end of the pre-season, and only just got his first team minutes just after the international break there. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on, especially with the likes of Bale, Benzema, Vinicius Junior, and around those front lines as well, Rodrigo, all these kind of players. So it's going to be interesting to see how they all get on. They seem to be getting on pretty well, albeit they've had very narrow wins. All these wins coming by 1 goal. The Levante game was a really interesting one as well. 3-0 up by half time, and then did let Levante back in it. So still a few frailties there in the back. I mean, they've done some good business, like the likes of Eder Militao coming in at the back, partnering the likes of Sergio Ramos, Rafael Varane, people like that. So it's going to be interesting how they get on, especially when you go through the Champions League campaign. Yep, so it's going to be interesting to see how they get on. But the real team that have kind of not really shown their true colours this season at all are Barcelona. But Barcelona have kind of been hampered a wee bit by injuries. They've only just seen the return of Lionel Messi. Luis Suarez has also just returned from injury as well. over the last couple of games. So they've obviously had the likes of Fatty, 16-year-old, coming through their ranks. He's made a good impact, got them a couple of really important goals. Started off Champions League as well. Trying to remember what happened in Barcelona's first game. Yeah, it was a 0-0 draw with Borussia Dortmund. So and they were kind of on the rocks for that one. They only just saw Luis Suarez back in that game, so they've really had to go with a front three of Carlos Perez, Antoine Griezmann, who's obviously their new signing from Atletico Madrid, and I mean, they've had Ousmane Dembele in around these times, but he hasn't played a lot of football. I'm trying to remember who the other attacking player was. He slipped my mind. Sorry, guys. But then they've also had the midfield three, who have kind of started to fix their way around. The likes of Frenkie de Jong, who's come in from Ajax, big money signing. Obviously, the likes of Rakitic, Busquets, Artur have had a really good season last season. He's put out some really good performances. Scored a wonderful goal at the weekend against Villarreal as well. So, but yeah, a couple of early defeats in the first 6 games. Obviously, opening day defeat away at the San Mamés, Athletic Bilbao. So then Aritz Aduriz scored a really important, really late goal. Brilliant goal it was as well. And then a very recent defeat to early front runners Granada as well at the weekend. So a 2-0 defeat there. Looked like Barcelona kind of just didn't really want it as much as Granada. Granada coming off some really good form, only lost one game over their first 6, and that was against Sevilla. So they've started really well. Barcelona have sort of faltered in the first few games of the season, haven't really got going as of yet. No real big performances that have come, but I'm sure with the returns of Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez as well, we might see Barcelona get on the up and up again. Like I said before, Atletico Madrid have also started really well. Only the 1 defeat from their opening 6 games. Also had a Champions League draw against Juventus as well at the Metropolitano. It seems like Diego Simeone doesn't quite know his best team yet. He's obviously a bit top heavy. Well, maybe top heavy is not the right word, but obviously you've got the front three of Costa, Morata and João Felix. So that's obviously they're a little bit unsure about how they're going to play that. Obviously João Felix has had a bit of time off the bench. It looks like Costa and Morata have started a few games together, and maybe João Felix has been on the receiving end of that in terms of not getting as much game time. So it's a little bit sort of unsure, but they got a good win last night against Mallorca, and then that came off a draw at the weekend. They had two successive drop point games, so they had 0-0 home draw against Celta de Vigo, and then also a 2-0 defeat in the Basque Country against Real Sociedad in San Sebastian. So not been the best time, especially when you got the 2-2 draw against Juventus. Is maybe could be seen as a good result. I think they were 2-0 down in that game, so did well to come back, but they're still going well. Only a point behind Real Madrid at the moment. Only the 1 defeat to their name. Did begin with 3 successive wins, so it's been a contrasting starts for Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, but they do face each other this weekend. This weekend coming the 29th, I think, or it could be the 28th. I think it's a Saturday, but I could be wrong. So it's going to be a really interesting game to see how that turns out on the weekend. Barcelona do head to Getafe, who have started. I mean, they've started. Did start great. Didn't win their first 4 games. Then beat Real Mallorca 4-2. Another newly promoted side, of course, and then got a 3-3 draw in Valencia last night as well. But that's kind of go off. So the team that have really impressed me actually been Real Sociedad. They played Espanyol at the weekend. I thought they were outstanding. Likes of Martin Odegaard on loan for Real Madrid. Did go to Vitesse Arnhem in Holland and had a very good season. So he's now come in. Alexander Isak is there as well, another promising young player. And then the likes of Willian José, who's a notorious goal scorer in the top flight of Spanish football. But a very interesting start. Real Madrid have kind of got their form going. I forgot Madrid are obviously there about. Barcelona, of course, are also there about, for just the 4 points behind Real Madrid. So that's La Liga. Sort of, took a wee bit too long, but a wee bit longer than I thought there. Going into Italy now. And it's been a very interesting start to the league season, and one which was maybe not entirely unexpected, considering the changes that have been made, the new managerial appointments. The only team inside the biggest clubs in Italy who didn't have a managerial change were in fact Napoli. They haven't got off to great starts. They've had 2 defeats in 5, including a defeat against Cagliari last night, and then also the 4-3 defeat at Juventus. So they've not had the best of starts, but the team that have really had a great start is in fact Inter Milan. Antonio Conte's Inter Milan, a brilliant derby win at the weekend. I think they thoroughly deserved that. I did watch that game. I thought Nicolo Barella was absolutely fantastic. He's a really promising young Italian star coming out of there after joining Inter Milan in the summer. Has really been on a good end of Roberto Mancini's philosophy of bringing in young players from that maybe haven't started many league games, like Nicolo Zaniolo, Moise Kean, Nicolo Barella himself, and all these kind of players who haven't really had much game time in Serie A, to bring them into the Italian national team. And he's flourished since then. He's had a really good season last season, and is now with Inter Milan. 5 wins out of 5 for Inter Milan. Only the 1 goal conceded in that time. Also, it was that 2-0 win against AC Milan. 1-0 win last night against Lazio. Also wins against Udinese. 2-1 win against Cagliari, who, like I said, have started pretty well. And then the 4-0 opening win against Lecce as well. So there's bigger tests to come for Inter Milan, there's no doubt in that. Big games against Juventus, no doubt, coming up as well. But yeah, brilliant start for Antonio Conte's men. The only real blemish they had was at home to Slavia Prague in the Champions League. We did talk about that in a previous episode. So a really good start for Antonio Conte, one that he'll be really delighted with. Defence looks extremely solid with Godin, Skriniar and De Vrij as well. So it's great to see Inter Milan. Somebody really looking like they're going to challenge Juventus at the top of Serie A. Juventus themselves have only dropped 2 points in the first 5 games. That coming in a 0-0 away draw to Fiorentina. That's always a better game, that is. Fiorentina not huge fans of Juventus. But yeah, there's been a little bit of frailty in Juventus recently. They let the lead slip at Atletico Madrid, like I talked about. They've also had high scoring games against obviously the 4-3 against Napoli, and they've only really won games by 1 goal. So they had the last 2 games against Brescia and Hellas Verona, 2 newly promoted sides, only won 2-1 in those games, and then an opening day 1-0 win against Parma. So they haven't really got going, so it's interesting to see how that one will develop. Like Ronaldo, not quite got going yet. He's had a couple of goals, but nothing really of note. Obviously, you look at these big players, Ronaldo, Messi, they haven't got going. Messi for his own reasons, but nonetheless, Ronaldo hasn't really come to the fore yet, along with these other big players as well. Ramsey's got his first goal against Hellas Verona at the weekend, so it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on, where he fits in that team. Also, the other big sign is Matthijs de Ligt coming at centre back. I think he's partnering alongside Giorgio Chiellini, so it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on as well, especially moving into higher standards of football compared to the Eredivisie. Other teams of note: Napoli, like I said, 3 wins from 5. Milan, 2 wins from 4. They've not started that great. Only 2 goals scored for them. Obviously, that defeat in the derby at the weekend. and then wins against Verona and Brescia, and then opening day defeat to Udinese. So it's only been like 1-0s all the way up until that 2-0 defeat at the weekend. So a lot of work if you're Jorge Giampaolo. So he needs to really get his players clicking that 4-3-1-2 system. There was times where it looked like it could work. By the look of it, it could easily work with Chernogo on the left side of that front of that defense, like the sort of midfield three if it were, Suso in front of them, and then the front two of they had Piontek and Rafael Leao. Leao getting his first start for AC Milan. He looks like a promising young player, but still really need to get going, AC Milan. Don't know who they play at the weekend. It is Fiorentina at home, so that's not going to be an easy one, especially since Fiorentina have been resolute but eventually got their big win at the weekend got their big win last night against Sampdoria. So that was a good first win for to get their season up and running after a difficult season. Roma 2 wins from 5. Only suffered their first defeat last night at home to Atalanta. I'm going to potentially watch that game later on. Atalanta though, they've kind of continued on from their good season last season. They lie third in the table, behind Juventus and Inter Milan. Their only really big problem was the 4-0 defeat against Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League, but doesn't look like that's something that will really affect them. I think there was just maybe more nerves on the night, but who knows where that will go from there. So Inter Milan and Juventus are the front runners in that one, 15 and 13, Atlanta on 10, and then everyone else falling in place behind. Going into France, and the real big surprise package is Angers. Angers 5 wins from 7. Big wins over the likes of Toulouse last night, Saint-Etienne they beat 4-1, Dijon, Metz as well. Their only defeats I think were against had one against Lille not too long ago, and then a 6-0 away defeat to Lyon. I think that was their second game of the season, but since then they've won 4 out of 5 and they're joint top with PSG. PSG losing 2-0 to Reims last night. Looked like Reims just plain and simply wanted it more. They've been a really surprise. They've been a really good package to watch. Really sort of cavalier type team to watch. Underrated. I've heard from some sort of expert sports journalists like Andy Brassel. I've heard on certain podcasts. Really bringing to light how underrated people have seen from Reims in the top flight of the French league. Lyon have really struggled. No wins since their opening 2 wins of the season. They've had 3 draws and 2 defeats in that time, so they've really struggled. Draws against Brest last night. Lost to PSG in the Classique. That was a big one for them. Neymar getting the all-important win on that one. Amiens a 2-2 draw. Bordeaux a 1-1 draw. So sort of southern-edge sort of rivalry to that one. And Montpellier as well, not too far from Lyon. So not too far. It is quite a fair distance actually. My geography could be kind of terrible at times. So Lyon have really struggled. I think they got a 1-1 draw against Zenit in the Champions League as well. So no wins since the sort of middle to late part of August. So they've kind of struggled a little bit. Other teams are not. Monaco, they're in a sort of similar state as what they were in last season. Only 1 win from them, and that was at the weekend against Nice, a 3-1 win. They had six games without a win to start the season under Leonardo Jardim. So it's interesting to see where he'll go. He was the one that sold loads and loads of players for a huge amount of money. He was the one that brought through like the likes of Bernardo Silva, Demi Bakayoko, Kylian Mbappe of course. All these players who went to semi-final of the Champions League with Monaco before they got knocked out in the last 4. But yeah, PSG, it's hard to know what's going on. Neymar has slowly come back into the side now, scored 2 really important goals for them after obviously a very turbulent summer in terms of the relationship between Neymar and the PSG board, the PSG team as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic works out, see if there's maybe any movement in January, especially when the likes of Barcelona potentially looking to bring him in as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I mean, I've said there's a lot of things that are interesting already, but this one obviously is one that a lot of the world of football will be looking at there. So PSG and Angers, like I said, top of the table, 15 points, 5 wins and 2 losses for them. Lille and Nantes have started the season very well. Four wins out of 7, 1 draw in there as well. They both on 13 points, and then there's 6 teams on 12 points and 11 points respectively. So the top 10 separated by only 4 points. So, and there's no undefeated teams either. Only 2 teams have only lost once, and that's Bordeaux and Marseille. So Marseille have also had a good turn in form as well, after a dismal season last time out. But yeah, so it's wide open French league, but in the next wee while we might see PSG start to pull away, especially the likes of Mbappe, Cavani and Icardi, all out injured at the moment, so they're needing to come back into form as well. We're now going to go into the Bundesliga next. Bundesliga, it's very open. It is very open, but there hasn't been any real sort of surprise. Well, there is one main surprise package, you could say, and that is RB Leipzig. They're undefeated, 4 wins out of 5 with a draw in there as well. The draw coming against Bayern Munich not too long ago. Leipzig have really started the season very well. They've looked very, very good. Julian Nagelsmann seems to be doing a really good job there. Obviously, a really young manager. I think he's only in his 30s. I might even be a little bit too high there, but yeah, very open brand of football they play. A lot of very good players as well. A lot of goals being scored. 13 goals in 5 games for RB Leipzig. Bayern Munich 2 points behind them. Have only dropped a further 2 points. They've scored 16 in there as well, so they've scored even more goals. 4-0 against Cologne at the weekend. They've also had 6-1 win against Mainz, 3-0 win against Schalke, and then 2-2 draw against Hertha Berlin, and then the 1-0 draw against Leipzig at the Red Bull Arena in Leipzig. So it's very interesting how it's gone. Borussia Dortmund have only had 1 loss to their record. They're only 3 points behind Leipzig, and they're on the same points tally as Freiburg, Schalke, Borussia Mönchengladbach and Bayer Leverkusen. So a lot of teams in very close touch with the league leaders. But yeah, Borussia Dortmund giving Union Berlin the first ever Bundesliga win. This is the first Bundesliga season. The sort of lesser known Berlin club, currently above the sort of bigger club in Hertha Berlin. But yeah, the first ever Bundesliga win for Union Berlin a few weeks ago against Borussia Dortmund, and I heard it was a fantastic performance from Union Berlin. Borussia Dortmund didn't really show up at all that day. So Leipzig, and a lot of people in Germany are believing that Leipzig could potentially be the 3rd team in the title challenge in Germany. So we might see the end of Munich's dominance in Bundesliga. We probably thought about that a bit last year when Dortmund were so far ahead and then got pegged back and overtaken. So it'll be interesting to see how that sort of tosses and turns over the next few months before Christmas, before we get a good idea of where the teams really are at. But yeah, an interesting German league there. We'll go into Holland now, and obviously the big two played in De Top at the weekend. PSV and Ajax. I did watch that game, but it was a really interesting game. PSV are now on I think it's a 52 match unbeaten run at home in the league, which is quite remarkable. Really, it's quite incredible after their 1-1 draw against Ajax. It was trying to remember who put Ajax ahead. I think it was David Neres. Can't remember. I think it was David Neres. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I did watch the game. I swear I did. But nonetheless, 1-1 draw in that one. Really good game of football actually. Wasn't a huge amount of chances, but it was a very good game to watch, and it was a player that really stood out. 17-year-old Mohamed El Hataren, who I think is a superb player, really good player. He looks like he's going to be an outstanding talent. If he performs and potentially helps PSV to the title this year, he could be looking at a very big club down the line. But yeah, PSV and Ajax both on identical records. Ajax have scored far more goals. They've scored 25 goals in 7 games. No, it was Quincy Promes. Quincy Promes gave Ajax the lead initially, and Malin, the highly rated PSV striker, who has done a really good job and earned an international call-up during the international break. He scored a wonderful goal after a really good build-up, brilliant football by Gakpo to give him what was in the end an easy finish. But PSV and Ajax running away at the top of the Eredivisie, it seems. Vitesse and AZ Alkmaar are not far behind. Feyenoord have struggled. They are undefeated in 6 games but have 4 draws, so they've not really got off to a great start. So they're already 7 points behind the top 2, so we're going to potentially seeing Ajax and PSV going to run away with it. The biggest surprise though is in Portugal and Famalicão, a team that I think have just got promoted from I think it's the Segunda Liga. They beat Sporting Lisbon 2-1 away from home and have continued their run at the top of the table. Have 5 wins and 1 defeat and are above both Benfica and Porto at the top of the Primeira Liga. So they've had a brilliant start to the season, and who knows if this would be quite outstanding if this team could go and do the likes of what Leicester did in the Premier League, or dear knows what else. It would be quite remarkable. They look like they're in great form. They've been some very good teams. They put it home to Belenenses the weekend, who have struggled. So that's going to be interesting to see where that goes. Porto and Benfica have already scored off once this season. Porto getting an unlikely win away at the Estádio da Luz. After what we thought Benfica would run away from Porto this season. They're currently tied on 15 points in this one, with Famalicão the only ones ahead of them. But those 3 have kind of broken away from Rio Ave and Boavista on 10 points. Sporting Lisbon have only got 8 points and in 7th at the moment. So the top two sides in Portugal haven't really got going, and Famalicão amazingly have really got themselves into what looks to be a title race, but there's still a very long way to go in this one. So we've kind of sort of briefly looked through all the teams in sort of main figureheads in Europe. Like I say, I haven't really had time. This has already gone a bit too long. I might have gone too much into the Spanish league at the start. But anyway guys, that's been our first tour of Europe. We'll come back to this one maybe in a couple of weeks time. I'm going to be taking this week after next off because I'm going on holiday with my girlfriend soon. So maybe see a few more videos next week. But until then guys, we'll see a Scottish football roundup very soon. And until then guys, thank you very much for watching our first European tour of all the top leagues on the continent, and we'll certainly be back with this one very soon. But until then guys, we'll see you guys very soon. Thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. Remember to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and thank you very much guys, and we'll see you very soon. Take care.